This is the Violent Professional Podcast.
All right, everybody, let's just get into it. This is the Violent Professional Podcast. I am your host, Whiskey Mike, and it's about time that we release the fucking Kraken! Oh, it feels so good once you release it. It always feels good once you release it, you know what I mean? It's like once it hits these lips. I don't know the rest. How are you guys doing? As I said, I'm the host of the Violent Professional Podcast. My name is Whiskey Mike, or that's just what they call me when I'm DJing at gay clubs on the weekend. It's my DJ name, fools. Hey, I got a question for all of you. Have you seen what the fuck is going on in the world right now? This shit is bananas. You know, if there was a song that could be dedicated to what's happening, it would be by Gwen Stefani. And it would be called Bananas. Because this shit is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. It's fucking bonkers also. I wish that Gwen Stefani made a fucking ballad called Bonkers. This shit is bonkers. B-O-N-C-K-E-S. That's how you spell it. I'm already fucking everything up. B-O-N-C-K-E-R-S. It doesn't have quite the ring to it as, say, a song about bananas. Is that song about bananas? I don't really know. But also, what is bonkers? I know they used it for, like, 1950s, like, insane asylum, but is it because they bonked their noggins when they were smashing their heads into walls? When they were going crazy in their straitjackets, they're like, let me out of this fucking thing! And they're going, what they would call bonkers, because they smash their fucking domes into the fucking wall. That's why the padding is there. Which is a weird thought. They don't want them to smash their fucking noggins into the cement walls. You know? But then they're fucking lobotomizing them with ice picks. This shit's weird. Anyway, great start in the episode already. I got my fucking, the Kraken with me. I got my Strike Force with me. If you don't know about Strike Force, maybe go listen to the audio version because I have a full-length advertisement talking about the wonders of Strike Force. But let me tell you, are you a fan of energy drinks? Well, this one you just hit the top, pop the top, and you pour it in water, and you have a fantastic drink ready to go and set your day off. You go use the code Evil Vibes at checkout. You get some money off of that, my friends. You know, I figure we show this on the fucking YouTubes, and you can look at it and be like, that looks interesting. Let me go try it at least. You know, go try it. They've got some really, they got the fucking sample packs. You can try all the flavors, get into it. Stop spending all the money on fucking cans of energy drink. Kick the can, get some fucking Strike Force. So, as I was setting up this episode, I had, because I set them up. I want to talk about specific things. I got bullet statements, and I got to talk about it. I owe you some cult facts, as per usual, because I'm writing the OLP book, and I want to tell you all about facts about cults that maybe you didn't know. This cult is, WatchMojo.com has this quote. I think that's what the fucking website is. Cult fact number 3 of this one, not their third cult fact, but a fact of the cults is that cults often have one charismatic leader. A confident person with a radical political or religious idea that can appear to be quite attractive and even revolutionary to someone who is searching for a place to belong. And cult founders know this. This is why many of them actively seek out or recruit the lonely, angry, and disenfranchised. Disenfranchised. Well, I mean, there's a plethora of those type of people. I bet now is a great time for cults. If, you wanted to start a cult, these days would be great, because eventually you're going to get fucking everyone in the United States is going to get smashed by the government. So why not fucking start a cult right now? I'm not telling you to. I'm just saying, why not? What if? It could be interesting. I would hate to see the aftermath of a cult, but cults are kind of fun. You have a fucking group of people that are like-minded that just want to fucking bang your wife. It could be cool to join a cult. Anyway. Oh, once it hits your lips, it's so good. Add in a propensity for deceit and manipulation, plus a thirst for power, and it becomes easy to imagine how a group of individuals who feel outcast from society could then find themselves enthralled by a powerful and opportunistic leader. You could equate this to like Antifa or any of the, even government. Even government is kind of like a cult these days. There's your cult about facts. I owed you that one. I skipped one of these days because Hubert Cummerdale wouldn't fucking talk about cults. He doesn't like to even mention it. But it is what it is. It is what it fucking is. I lost those fucking glasses, unfortunately. I don't know where they are. And I'm a little bit upset. I might have to go find some. But lucky for me, because I talk about these fucking glasses, I have plenty of algorithmic ads in my fucking social media, so I won't have to look very far. I can get some awesome ones. So, moving on. Talking about cults. Talking about the where I am in my life. As you may or may not have known, I'm writing a book. And it has proved challenging. If you heard on the last episode, I talked about dialogue. That is one of the challenging parts. I'm also coming to find out that writer's block is a real challenge as well. Sometimes I have to switch up my perspective. Sometimes I have to change things up. One of the things I do is I try to write sober. I try to write drunk, which the last time I wrote about 400 words, and then I played video games. Because I was drunk and I was like, let's write some shit. So I wrote about 400 words, and it was pretty funny. And I read it on the fucking the Instagrams, put it in the story. Maybe some of you have heard it, but it's quite interesting. The dynamic range of this book, I'm finding it's proving to be not only a challenge but also rewarding and a fantastic read. I'd like to introduce. I may have talked about Richard Stroker on one of the episodes, but I'm going to introduce Hubert, not Hubert Cummerdale. This is a different Hubert. It's not inspired by Hubert Cummerdale. And I did talk about it on the last one, so I'm not going to get too into it. But the chapter, I'm basically on chapter 4 right now. And there's about 12 chapters that I've outlined right now. So in this chapter, Richard... I'm not going to talk about the major plot points, but this is kind of leading into it. This is kind of fucking molding the structure of this book. And this interaction where Richard finds out that he is not in control of his destiny. You talk about manifest destiny, Richard is not manifesting anything. Richard wants to get some fucking hard candies because he's an old motherfucker and there's a grocery store right across the street, and he enjoys a good hard candy, as you could imagine, him being a fucking 80-year-old dude. He likes a good Werther's Original from time to time. He puts them in a candy dish and munches on them. But not today, not in this chapter, not in chapter 4. He tries to go get his fucking his hard candies, and he is met with some resistance. And Hubert, who introduced himself earlier and was looking to satisfy Richard's every desires. Well, there was some dark intent behind all that because he really doesn't give a fuck about Richard, and you'll find that out. Spoiler alert, I'm telling you, I've already told you some stuff in the book, so turn this shit off. You don't want to hear about the OLP? You don't want to hear about the fucking OLP? It's not even a book about the OLP. It's about old people, which is weird. You're like, how is that going to be funny? It's like, trust me, it's going to be fucking ridiculous. The minute you hear Richard penetrate Edith in her old 90-year-old sniz, you're going to be like, this is hilarious, as you puke all over yourself listening to it or reading it. And listening to it depends on if you get the fucking audiobook. It might be voiced by yours truly. Or maybe I'll get fucking Samuel L. Jackson. I'll find enough cheddar to get him to read it. How awesome would that be? Morgan Freeman read the fucking the reserve in order of the light protector's fucking tail. That would be fucking dope. Or maybe I'll go on Fiverr and like pay somebody $5 to read it who sounds like Morgan Freeman. Maybe I could do it myself. I will read the Order of the Light Protector's book as Morgan Freeman. I mean, it's going to be great fun. When this thing is actually done 5 years from now and I'm fucking done, and I'm like, I go through an intervention for drinking so much, and then people are like, you have a problem. I'm like, I just got to write this fucking book. You're like, no, you're fucking, all you do is drink and say you're going to write, and then you don't, and you play video games. This book's taking forever. You obviously have a problem. It is what it is. You know, the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem, and my problem is I like to party, you know. I got many problems. You know, one of which is why I can't fucking hold a relationship together. As many of you have this issue. And part of it is because I just don't fucking care. I don't care enough. Right? I don't fucking care. You know how fucking tiring it is to learn about people and fucking tell people about yourself? It's fucking exhausting. But anyway, I digress. I started getting into something else. Let's continue, all right? Can I? Can I continue? I had to look at the recorder to see if I was still recording. That would suck. I have this fear about this podcast, and part of that is I didn't hit the record button, and that's happened before, like once or twice. And there's other times where I just stop mid-sentence and then I feel like the whole episode's fucking garbage and I delete it. God damn it. Anyway, continuing on. Yeah, I said in the last episode I'm not going to talk about current events. I'm not going to talk about celebrity gossip. I know there's a lot of you out there. It's like, Mike, can I just get the fucking latest celebrity gossip? It's too hard to find on Google. It's too hard to hear about on social media. I look to you for all of my news. And so I got to wait a week, sometimes more, to figure out what the current events are. And I was hoping that you could tell me so that when this episode's like fucking 5 months old and I like tune in, I can be like, oh, I didn't even know that was happening because I live in a fallout shelter and I ingest radiation on the daily. I'm going to put a spin because I know you're anxiously waiting. I know you're anxiously waiting for fucking current events from me. Well, I'm going to put a spin on this because this podcast is eternal and I can't let anybody down. So I'm going to talk about some event that's been happening that I am curious about because it makes no sense that it's an actual news story. Now, God forbid people are murdered. I hate to see it. But it's a part of life. Death is a part of life. It's a huge part of life. And as you'll hear later on in the episode, the whole last section of this podcast is all related to death and the psychology of it. And I'm going to tie in one of my favorite fucking movies, you know. So the event I'm going to talk about has been on the tip of everybody's tongue. It's been all over the news, like excessively all over the news. And unfortunately, a young woman has died. You know, but good for us. Dog the Bounty Hunter joins the hunt for a Florida man suspected of killing girlfriend in a story that shockingly took over the news cycles conveniently at a time that we needed to be watching the government the closest, even though this story is as American as your everyday boyfriend kills girlfriend and hides in Florida. Throw in cannibalism, and you have a Netflix original. Okay. You may be wondering, what the fuck am I talking about? Well, random white guy goes hiking with his girl or goes on a trip across the country, kills her, suspectedly, right now at the recording of this episode. But good for us, Dog the Bounty Hunter, who said the N-word all over social media, looking for a redemption, is on the honest fucking heels. Do we know that for a fact? No, we don't. He brought a lot of media attention. And if I'm a thinking man, I would think you would want to keep this as close to the chest as possible. You wouldn't want everybody to know that you're fucking right near where he's at. But God bless Dog the Bounty Hunter, who looks like your Aunt Linda, who decided at a late stage in life that she decided to become a fucking lesbian. Your Aunt Linda all of a sudden shows up from the fucking 80s and 90s with the flowing blonde locks. Just fucking, and everybody's like, why does Linda look all buff? It's because Linda took testosterone to enlarge her clit so that she could fucking peg her girlfriend. But anyway, this whole fucking thing has me confused because if you actually look at all of this, and hopefully you know what I'm talking about, this Brian Laundrie shit. If you look at all of it, unfortunately, someone has died, and that's unfortunate. I'm not taking anything away from that, so don't fucking send the fucking people with the pitchforks and shit at me, if you can find me. Haha. I was trying to find, because it's all over social media, right? It's everywhere. It was, and I don't know if it is because I haven't seen anything in the past few days other than Dog the Bounty Hunter with his fucking chest hair out and his red skin because he was probably drunk when they recorded any fucking thing with him. I was trying to find something that's unique about it because I was curious to it. Is like, why is this all over the fucking news? Why is it all over the fucking news? It just doesn't make sense. It's not, and I say that because it's not the only, like, this is not a unique story, but the media is making it out like it's a unique story. Unfortunately, a woman has died, like I said. This young lady has died. But in the terms of, is it exciting or isn't it? It's in terms of a murder case, an unsolved murder case, it's really not that interesting. It's not that she wasn't important to people or that she had families or whatever, but I'm talking about the overall idea. Take out the names, take out the people. What actually happened is not a unique story in America. That is happening multiple times a day. All over the country, unfortunately. Not in the exact way, I'm sure, but let's just break it down. Someone was killed by her or by someone, right? Let's assume that this person is guilty, and we could just take it at the face value. What everybody's thinking. This guy killed his girlfriend. He ran to Florida because, of course, why wouldn't you? You can fucking hide in Florida in the Everglades. There's gators there. There's fucking dinosaurs. Why not hide in there? Why not befriend dinosaurs and hide with them? All right? It just doesn't make sense. And the only thing that I think would make sense, if you're not thinking about it, is that there's something else going on and why the media jumped on this. Because there's a lot of crazy shit happening that's crazier than this very American drama that's unfolding. I look at like what I sat and talked to my Jeremy over this past week, and I was like, we were just discussing it. We both kind of came to the same conclusion. Like, what is actually unfolding that this thing is distracting us from? Because it's pretty rare these days to, unless it's a cover up or something like that, like they're not really showing anything that doesn't have to do with politics or whatever. And the reason I started thinking this is because all of a sudden one day this is going on and I'm not really paying attention to it. Social media and all the fucking influencers that make a living hawking products all over social media. Oh, by the way, check out Strikeforce Energy and use code EvilVibes. But a lot of these influencers, which is the dumbest fucking term ever, are just pushing this fucking story. And like this one person I saw was like, oh my God, guys, have you seen this? It's crazy. And like, I just can't turn away. I just can't turn away. How would I turn away when this is going on? This story is so unique that I cannot turn away. Oh, what happened? What's going on? Tell me about it. What's so unique about it? a guy killed his girlfriend and is running away from the police who are hot on his tails because he doesn't want to be arrested for killing his girlfriend. Well, that doesn't sound very unique. Oh my God, but the media tells me it is. You know what I mean? So I see these fucking influencers, and it's all over the fucking feed. It's like, and they're just like, oh my God, have you guys seen this? Look, this guy's running. It's like, okay, but tell me the interesting part. He's running from cops? Why wouldn't you run from cops? You killed somebody. You know what I mean? That's the most reasonable response in the whole thing. It's like killing your girlfriend, not reasonable. That's totally unreasonable. Chopping up the body, also maybe reasonable, so you could get rid of it. Running from the cops, reasonable in that circumstance. I'm not saying any of it's reasonable, but like doing this stuff, it makes sense in that context. Telling the cops you did it and not running away, that just doesn't make any sense. So that would be a unique story, like guy kills family and then calls the cops and said, I did it. That's, unfortunately, as sick as all this sounds, that would be the only unreasonable or story that you would be like, wow, this dude did all that and then didn't kill himself. Like, that's fucking amazing. He wanted to spend time in jail, obviously. I would say, like, the most interesting thing about it is Dog the Bounty Hunter is a part of it. But, Aunt Linda ain't gonna fucking catch him. If he does, it's like, it still doesn't cover up the fact he said the N-word, like, on national fucking TV. Anyway. No, I'm joking around, but that's unfortunate. The whole fucking thing is unfortunate. And also it's unfortunate that social media and like Dog the Bounty Hunter got involved, because now they're like really limiting their shot at catching this fucking dude. So, who's obviously guilty. Like, let's just be honest. Oh, what did I say? I said throw in cannibalism, you would have a Netflix original. That would make it way more interesting if you like ate her and then fucking whatever. Sorry to families. Sorry to everybody had to deal with this. But just so you know, you're not alone. This stuff happens every fucking day. So the media just chose to focus on this, and I didn't even get to the real part. It's like, what is the big push for this? And we find out lately that the government is woven in the fabric of fucking media, like mainstream media. In fact, on this last fucking bill they just passed, there's a media bailout because they suck so much. People would rather watch YouTube video than watch fucking media try to divide us. It's way cooler to watch a fucking YouTube video of people taking a hot knife and like cutting through shit than it is to watch fucking Chris Cuomo fucking like talk about anything. Fucking anything. Sitting there while Don Lemon says some fucking ridiculously racist shit. And everybody just gives him a pass. Anyway. You got to look at it. What is actually happening? You can't look at any of this stuff and be like, oh, it's a news story. This is very important. It's not a news story. It's all fucking bullshit. All of it. All of it. Does anybody out there question? Hit the comments and fucking say, do you trust the government? And if you do, please give an explanation. Because through all of this time over the pandemic, and as of late, it's absolutely clear that they nonstop lied to us about everything and then fucking pass bills as we're all fighting because we have no time to fucking look at what's actually happening in the government. And this is my question. I'm not really big on fucking knowledge about what the government like all of the positions in the government and fucking the fucking the House or the Senate. But like, what the fuck are we even like? We're not paying attention to any of that. The most we care about is the fucking Capitol Hill riots. And we're all distracted by bullshit. It makes me question all of it. Like, How can you, please, if you believe that the government is there for our best interests on all levels, please comment and tell me why you think that. Put your case out there and say, this is why the government has our best interests in mind. And go against my thought about, like, we're literally living batteries in a matrix somewhere, and we're feeding a fuel with tax money to pay for people to fuck kids in the Caribbean. That's a little bit outlandish. But probably true. It's probably more true than what we're witnessing right now. It's like, here, everybody look at the story of a fucking white girl that was murdered while we pass this bill that literally makes it a law that we get to fuck you in the ass if you don't put a fucking substance in your body. You don't get it. You don't get it. Inject it into you. Every single senator in your fucking set state gets to come to your house and bend you over your fucking kitchen table and fuck you repetitively. It doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat, that's the law. We fucking voted for it and agreed that coming inside of something sounds way better than what we were gonna do. We could pass all kind of legislation that would help you out as human beings. But we rather would pass something where we get to insert our flaccid penises in your fucking hairy assholes. And if you're a senator that likes to do that thing, please check out. No, I'm not going to promote that. I'm not going to put that fucking tinge on things. All right, moving on, because there's only so much I can talk about that fucking story. But while it was entertaining and fun to do, I'd like to move on to something else involving one of my favorite movies of all time, to the point of I got a tattoo with the last line of Fight Club on my fucking arm. And it very, very true. It says, "You met me at a very strange time in my life." It's all the words on my arm, and it's pretty true. On all stages of my life, I found out that anybody that meets me, it is a very strange time in my life. And especially, I think that rings true for a lot of us these days. It's a very strange time. You met me at a very strange time. So I'm going to, because the world seems as if it's going crazy, or it is crazy, or we're living in a matrix, I'm going to try to apply Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality. I know there's a lot of big words, and to be honest, I don't know if I said any of them correctly. But I'm going to talk about them, about some things within Sigmund Freud's study of personality, and try to apply it to the movie Fight Club and how this has affected, these thoughts and these fucking words have can be described as they define things about me, and I'm sure some of you. So I'm not going to get into necessarily the psychology of Fight Club because I'm not a smart man. But I will say that I wrote this episode to try and figure out some of the sections of Fight Club because I've watched it about 1 million times. I got a tattoo on my fucking arm. I relate to the character of the narrator. Now listen, to the motherfucker out there that tried to call me out on some of the fucking Fight Club knowledge on fucking social media. I want you to know, you were wrong, dude. He doesn't have a name. The narrator is the narrator. I put a quote on social media and I said, I am Jack's whatever. Because Jack and Jill is just, it's essentially just a regular ass fucking dude, and it's like, I am this person's rage. And so in the book, and I obviously don't know what fucking the dude that wrote it, Jack Palahniuk, meant when he wrote all of it. And if you hear any interviews with him, he loves the idea of interpretation of his stuff. So Jack is a generic name. It's kind of like John Smith, right? Like, it's a generic name, and so it applies to Jack is the everyday man, the everyday beaten down man when it comes to just 9 to 5, the working class. And so if you've seen the movie or whatever, and if you haven't, I don't know what the fuck, you don't even know what I'm talking about, but the everyday man has all of these emotions and things go on in his life that is relatable to anybody in that same demographic. A working class man is beaten down by society, much like they are these days, to made feel bad about their current situation when they're just trying to live life, enjoy time with their family, and be successful in some way, shape, or form. So what I wrote down is breaking down the id, the ego, and the superego, and those are the principles within Sigmund Freud's theory of personalities, right? So it's going to be a 3-part thing because I'm not going to get into too much I'm not going to do like a fucking 2-hour episode. I'm going to just try to talk about each one on this episode and then 2 episodes from now. And if you're interested in it, I hope you are, because this shit interests me. So on these episodes, we're going to talk about the id, which is, and I break these down in certain ways, but the ego, the id, the ego, and then the superego. So let's just get into this. According to Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality, the id is the personality component made up of unconscious psychic energy that works to satisfy basic urges, needs, and desires. For all you people out there that are psychologists or talk about this stuff or know about this stuff or study this shit, I'm doing my own thing, so I don't care if I'm correct. But essentially, that's the idea of this episode. I'm going to be talking about that, and I'm not going to talk about... I was going to talk about political stuff, and then I'm like, man, I think people need a break from that stuff. So, even though I did talk about it earlier, it equated to the fucking Brian Laundrie shit. But anyway, moving on. The id, the ego, and the superego are a set of 3 concepts. Did I read that already? No, I didn't. I wrote this stuff, but it was like I copied some stuff from the internet. All right. The id, ego, and superego are a set of 3 concepts in psychoanalytic theory describing distinct interacting agents in the psychic apparatus, which is probably your brain. The 3 agents are theoretical constructs that describe the activities and interactions of the mental life of a person. Now, in order to apply this to Fight Club and to my own life, I have to figure out how to do that, in a sense. One of the best ways I felt that this could be accomplished is by taking specific quotes from specific sections of the movie and talking about them and how they apply to those concepts, and then giving my interpretation of it, and then talking about a time in my life or a thing that I do or something about myself that could be equated to that, or just give my general perspective. And that's what I'm going to try to do here. So let me get some Kraken in my fucking Kraken, and then we'll go. All right? I want to talk about something else before we get into this. Do you like this do you like podcasts? How about terminally ill stepfathers? The best way you can support this podcast, if you do enjoy this podcast, is going over to Violent Professional Podcast, going to our merch tab and picking up some sick threads. We got some dope ones out there. And don't look at this t-shirt and be like, is that one of them? No, it's not. I just got back from skydiving up at Skydive Fayetteville. There it's a good time. I jump out of planes there. We had a great fucking sky party. But anyway, moving on. So as I said, I'm going to break this down into 3 different episodes where I do what I did on this one, where I talk about some stuff, and then the meat and potatoes of the episode, I'm going to talk about what I want to in terms of this. So on this episode, we're going to talk about the id, which would be instincts. And if you break it down, it's essentially human Neanderthal brain. If we could equate it to instincts, which is the id, everything that controls you subconsciously, I could equate it to two things. That would be peace and violence. If we talk about peace and violence, essentially, if you look at Fight Club, the movie, that's exactly what it is. It's a man, the narrator, in peace and in violence. The monotonous, tedious version of himself, narrator, the Jack, whatever he calls himself at that particular time, or Cornelius, which is the guy on social media. Which I'm talking shit right now, but I hope you know that I appreciate the banter. But Cornelius, Jack, or the narrator, which is narrator's his name. They never actually call him anything, other than his love interest. Calling him Cornelius. Cornelius. It should be Edward Norton from the movie. Which, it's not Edward Norton in the book. He's going from a peaceful 9-to-5 working drone type of man that has been beaten down by society into a world of chaos and disorder. The second, part 2 will be about ego, the reality, order, and chaos. The ego is that part of the id which has been modified by the direct influence of the external world. So that's where we will get into the Fight Club, how it applies to this man that's come from order into chaos and then has become something else. In part 3, we're going to talk about the superego. 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 And that involves morality. That's where you understand your basic upbringing and stuff like that, and we can equate that to two things: love and fear, fight or flight. So the id, for all those that are not in the know, is the id is part of ourselves that contains our deepest, darkest, and most primitive impulses. To use an analogy, it's an uninhibited Neanderthal that still lives inside of us all. So we could equate that down to survival. The part of you that the instincts, your subconscious mind make you do, like breathing or fight or flight or anything that you could think of when in terms of instincts. Now I have several quotes for this episode, which I'm going to try to apply to every part of this fucking series. I'm going to say the quote. This is how I'm going to do is I'm going to say the quote, and then I'm going to break it down into the psychology of it. And then I'm going to talk on something. I'm just going to elaborate on that. So one of the quotes from Fight Club is, "With a gun barrel between your teeth, you speak only in vowels." That can be summed up in terms of our choices can ascend or be our end. So let's break this down, right? So if you remember that part of the movie, it would be in the very first section. I'm going to use the movie because it's more visual for everybody, right? So in that section, it's in the beginning of the movie and it goes into the end. So if you remember Fight Club, if you haven't watched it a lot, it starts at the end of the movie before all of the shit that it transpires and gets the narrator to the point he's in. All right. Now, if you haven't seen Fight Club and you're interested in it and you don't want to, please turn this off because I'm going to ruin the whole fucking movie. If you're anticipating any section that you're like, I don't know anything about this movie, but I am very interested and I don't want anybody to ruin it. Well, you should fucking move on right now. Listen to another episode or come back after you watch the movie. So our choices can ascend or be our end, and that's how. My interpretation of that scene would be exactly that. So, if you look at the movie, the narrator took certain actions to get into the place unwittingly, right? He didn't know that there was he had this other personality, this personality disorder, his schizophrenia, where he had severe hallucinations to witness Brad Pitt as his other. And then another section of her personality. He took certain steps in his life, whether it be the drone worker, the insurance company, entertaining a relationship with Marla Singer. Regardless of the schizophrenia, he put himself in certain positions. He was going to those self-help therapy sessions, and he had certain actions he took that put him in there. So if we're talking about our actions can ascend or be our end, that's a very direct quote with that whole ideology of like taking certain actions that we all take can ascend us or end us. And you don't, honestly, like the narrator didn't know that he was doing anything that could put him in a place to both ascend him and be the end of his previous self. They could be intermingled, but he took them regardless. So that's kind of how I equate that. Now, if I could put myself in this, because I'm going to try to, everything that I do in my life is in the same regards. Me joining the military, me becoming a father, me deciding to put my baby gravy inside of some woman, nice lady. I'm not going to say anything bad because this podcast is eternal. We actually get along quite well. But we, took certain decisions, including marriage, fights with people, me going to therapy at times, combat, making certain friends, jumping out of fucking airplanes. I feel like in those terms of all the things I'm saying, you could look at it in both ways. I could make decisions and like bad things can happen to me. Me coming to Arkansas, as an example of good and bad things in my life. Good, it's an experience. Bad, I'm not around my son as much as I want to be. And they both, like all of these things I look at, I don't look at a lot of things negative like I used to. Whereas I might in the past look at things and be like, fuck, it's so horrible or whatever, or like be down in the dumps or pissy or whatever about certain events. These days, after being alive for almost 40 years, I look at a lot of things, even in the struggle of whatever it is, what is the good thing of this? Like, what's the good part of this? Because a lot of the things these days can look pretty shitty and pretty grim. So I try to take everything as a lesson to make myself better. And why is this bad situation? I'm just talking about in general. I'm saying, why is this situation that could be perceived as a shitty hindrance to my ascension? Why is it a good thing? Well, I think hardship is a lesson in how to be better in general. I think a lot of people these days don't look at bad times or anything as like a good thing for human progression, to be honest. Next quote from the movie Fight Club. On a long enough timeline, the survivor... I didn't want to mess it up! Damn it! On a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone drops to 0. If you remember this part of the movie, it was when the narrator was at the burnt up car in like the first section of the movie, and he was talking about this vehicle being burned up, and he was explaining how the insurance company pays out and the really devious and dubious fucking ways that they go about rating these things, and if a recall is warranted, then they go through certain steps, and if the the payout to the family is less than a recall, then they don't do one. Or no, the payout to the family, you know what I mean. So let me try and fucking equate that. If the recall costs more than the payout to the family, then they don't do one. So they'll just keep paying until the bill racks up, and then they do a recall after enough people have died. So you could look at this section like, you know, on a long enough timeline, survival rate for everyone drops to 0. That could be equated to death is inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable. It only is a matter of time and how it happens, right? So what I think is, with current events these days, how everybody is treating the pandemic and the way that a lot of people are acting, people have forgotten that we all, and this is my opinion, I think a lot of people have forgotten that we all fucking die. You know, it's almost like people didn't learn that people die. I think when you have enough shitty situations in your life, or enough people have died in your life, you kind of make peace with that. And especially over time, and on a long enough timeline, when the survival rate goes to 0, you have an understanding that this is a part of the deal. And it doesn't make it any easier to understand that we die. It's like everybody creates their own personalities. Some people have very diverse personalities. Some people are it's almost like they don't. You know what I mean? But we're all have our own shit going on. We're all very in our own way, even dynamic or fucking dull. We all have our own personalities, whatever that may be, on the 0 to the 10. You know what I mean? And I think some people are more at ease with dying because they feel like it's easier than living. And I feel like there's some people that live such a heightened reality that they don't want to die, and they kind of wash that out of their brains. But on a general timeline, we're all going to fucking die. None of us are escaping this shit we're in. And I think it's up to you to either make peace with that, or just ignore the fact of that reality. And again, it's only a matter of time when that fucking happens. So that, like, with me, it's like I kind of look at it like I don't want to die. I definitely don't. And when I was a kid, if I could give a story about that, because this is my fucking story time. This is the Silly Goose Hour. Haven't you heard? I used to be terrified of the concept, and I think it was about the time that I found out that people actually die. You know what I mean? Like, it terrified the fuck out of me, and I'm like, wait, we're brought into this life to cruelly die at the end? Like, you know? It's like a concept that's so fucking mind-blowing that it can jar you when you fucking find out. And I remember it fucking terrified me as a kid to think that we eventually die. And I'm not going to get into exactly a story about that, but I just remember that it was utterly terrifying to me that there was this point where it all ends. Over the years, I became more at peace with it, which I think that is something that provides me with a lot of peace in general. And it doesn't make me do crazy shit. I jump out of planes, but honestly, jumping out of planes, as long as you fucking pay attention to, coming up in the sport, like, it's really not that dangerous. It's more dangerous to drive in your car to the drop zone, you know? It's more dangerous to watch this podcast on YouTube as you're driving in your car than it is to skydive. Especially if you, follow basic safety procedures and make sure your equipment's good, and don't just go be fucking reckless when you do shit. Speaking of reckless, I was pretty reckless last weekend when I was jumping. It was borderline irresponsible. And that's just because I like to party and I like to go fast. Call me Ricky Bobby. One of the things I think that we could do, you know, like, one of the things I think people, and this is aside from death is inevitable, there's a lot of people out there that I think have forgotten that as humans, we're raising kids. I'm not the person that thinks it takes a village. But in some regards, it's like parents have forgotten that they have fucking kids, because it feels like, and in me sometimes too, it feels like, I don't feel like even though I'm 40, or almost 40, it feels like I'm like 20 still in some terms. Now, if you ask my back, he'll say I'm fucking 80. And some of my knees, you know, all of my knees feel like I'm 80. And my neck, like I got fucking bulging discs and shit. I feel like my necks feel like they're fucking 90. But yeah, and on that, speaking of feeling 90, sometimes my bulging discs in my lower back make me feel like I have to poop my pants. That's a fact. We're like, do I have to shit? And I'll sit on the toilet and I'm like, like my fucking pinched nerves are just telling my butthole that there's something inside. It's like, you just took 5 shits. Anyway, see what I'm talking about? I feel like I'm still a kid sometimes because I told a shit joke just now. Remember that time I fucking almost shit my pants, but it was just nerves because I got bulging disc? Haha, 2 funny things at one time. You're making a poop joke, and you're also acting like you're 80. With all the stuff happening, it feels like people just don't understand they have kids. It's like parents try to act like they're friends with their kids, and then they have these horrible kids because they never disciplined their kids because they thought it was, they don't want to yell, they don't want to raise their voice, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that, they don't want to put them in timeout. Oh my God, we got to take a switch away because then I might have to fucking pay attention to them. And I think a lot of people just in general, like even if you don't have kids, there should be a level of decency among people in general when it comes to children who are like young. Now, like I was playing a video game with my son, and we go into this party, and to be honest, I fucking hate going on like Call of Duty or anything and then just adding in random people because you don't know what you're going to get. And they say the dumbest shit sometimes. Some people don't talk. It's just a mixed bag of what you get. So a lot of times I don't fucking let anybody into the party. But on this one occasion, my son had the party open and we joined, and these 2 kids, one was 15 and one was like younger. He was like my son's age, and those 2 kids are just cursing up a storm. And I was like, and I wasn't saying anything because after all, curse words are just words. But eventually it got to be too much. They're just saying naughty words just to say them. And I was like, hey man, like I said something, I was like, hey, could you stop swearing? Like, play the game. Like, there's no need. And he fucking went after me, and he's like, what are you, my fucking therapist? Like, sounds like you fucking need one, dude, because like you're incessantly saying fuck. Like, there's no reason for it. Calm the fuck down. There's kids. And at one point, I got so fucking annoyed with him. I said, calm the fuck down. There's little kids playing. I was like, I hope we didn't fucking hear that. But it's like, I think just, and obviously they're 15-year-old, and it's a different concept. Like I was raised in the 80s and then lived through 9/11 as an adult man. And just like, it's a different time. And I think every generation has this issue. Eventually you grow up. Eventually you either become responsible and try to be aware of your environment as much as possible. A lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't have common sense, but I think that's one part of it. Is a lot of people. I would hope that a lot of people have common sense. I would hope that a lot of people are aware of their situation. I would hope that people understand that we as human beings are raising kids, and that, like, fuck, even people in the government, like these old fuckers. It's like everybody's so fucking selfish. Everybody has fucking egos. They won't admit that they're wrong on any of it, and it causes so many fucking issues. It's like, this is part of the problem about why fucking nobody wants, like, a third of the population is like, no, I don't give a fuck what's going on. It's because they can't trust you because you're sticking to your fucking ideas. And instead of just saying, like, hey, this is something that's for the good of the nation, like, and not forcing people to do stuff, it's like, you can't fucking trust these fuckers. And it's like, kind of went off on a tangent there. Anyway, beer. That's what I have to say about that. I think people forget that we're raising children in general. I'm not talking about global warming. This is for the next generation. I'm not talking about that. Everybody's concerned about global warming. I think when it comes down to it, we're going to figure out a fucking plan. We're either going to fucking evac out of this fucking place, or they're going to figure out some fucking amazing technology in the next 20 years that takes all the carbon out and makes the fucking world all better. We have 12 years to live. You said that 12 years ago. You said that 12 years ago, Turkish. How about them sausages, Tommy? If you know what that movie is, what I just quoted, please fucking leave a comment below. We're burning right through this shit. But first, you have to give up. First, you have to know, not fear. Know that someday you're going to die. So, if you remember this part of the movie, Tyler Durden is driving a vehicle and he's explaining to the narrator that he tries to control everything so fucking much. It's like, just let go. Submit to to fate. Submit to it. Stop trying to control everything. Look at you. And he's just